Welcome back to the Glint Standard. Today we're going to be talking about what it means to be an industry leader. All right, so industry leaders. How do you define an industry leader?
So how do you define that, right?
Very basic terms.
Well,
We'll start very basic.
I think experience it's got to be the main driving factor there.
Okay.
10 to 15 years experience, you understand trends, you can adapt, economic conditions. You've been through a lot at that point.
Okay.
You know, a lot of people have done it for a few years. I'm an expert now. I'm really good at this specific thing. I become an industry leader. For us, it's really about longevity as gaining experience in a certain industry, topic, something like that. Because that longevity, you have to have dealt with a lot of things that you wouldn't in say a year or two type of thing, right? So it's going to help you overcome some of that.
Okay. Do you feel like, I guess the question and challenge that I would see with that is, what about brand new platforms, right? So could you become, and how do we define an industry leader for like TikTok, right? It hasn't been around long, so is it the people that are first to adopt it, understand the platform the best? Like how do you get to that?
Well, that's marketing is what that is. That's branding. You know, industry leader, I mean, you're defining it yourself and you're trying to set yourself up that way, right? If you truly, in our terms and in my terms, what an industry leader is, it's more than being very good at a platform. Now, you want an industry leader in TikTok? Well, it's still a fairly new platform, right? TikTok is the industry leader for TikTok, right? You want to know things, you get a hold of TikTok and let them know. But somebody comes along and can adapt that and do things that are very different, right? And utilize it in a way that's unexpected. Now you're starting to set yourself apart as a creative, different, coming up with unique approaches to go about using that platform. That will make you an industry leader, in my opinion, on that one platform. That starts to take you down that path, right? Innovation's a big piece of that, right? And moving it forward that way. So,
do you think there's an element in there of personal branding that has to happen?
There definitely is. If you want to have people follow you,
right?
I mean, you can be an industry leader, but if you're kind of a jerk to deal with, nobody cares. So it plays both ways, right? There may be somebody who's the best in their field, but if you can't get people to follow you and get engaged with you, then yeah, it's not going to work, right? And you can get, often I say, you know, you don't have to be the very best at what you do, but you can hire people to do that, right?
Right.
So that can still make you an industry leader because you understand a lot of different things, right? Some of the things you have to be able to do, I think, are you have to share your experiences. So I think you have to know how to share, because that's how you bring people up and through the pathways, right? Another thing that you have to do is you have to have foresight of what's coming, right? Can you read things with clients? Can you read things with employees? Can you read things in the economy, follow other industries that maybe aren't yours and say, okay, something's happening here. We need to buckle down a little bit, prepare for it. Or there's a big shift here on what's going on. Let's dig into it. But can you see that? You become aware of it and take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Right? To protect yourself or advance yourself forward type of thing. Another big one for me is mentoring, right? And I think of mentoring as more of giving back. Are you giving back? Are you maybe helping somebody who's less experienced move forward in a productive way?
Gotcha.
Doesn't even have to be in your company, but are you trying to move and share your knowledge, the parts that are relevant and make sense, right? Because not all of it does, even though I think maybe it should, may not connect. But how are you helping somebody else further themselves by utilizing your knowledge, right, and your experience, right? So I think that's a big piece of it too.
Yeah, and when I think of, in general, of an industry leader, I often think about you can do the popularity contest, the personal branding, only to an extent.
Okay.
I think that runs out at some point, right? Because you eventually, I think, as an industry leader, you have to start putting your money where your mouth is. And it's not just talking a good game and getting up on stage or being like, this is how the industry's moving and this is how it's changing, or even a blog, right? Let's say, not necessarily on stage, but but even if you're a big blogger and you're putting out industry leading facts and figures and all those things, I think you can't fake that for long, right? And so it's really, you have to start proving it.
Well, you can, but you become stagnant, right? And I think some of that, another quality I think leaders have is adaptability, right? That falls back a little bit from being a projector. Projection is something you have to be able to do as a leader. I don't work on today. I work on a year from now and 5 years from now. Today's already done. You need people working on today. But if you're leading, you can't be doing that, or else you're working in the business, as they always say, right? However, if you can also be the adaptable piece of it, and you can actually work in the business and show that you can do it and you understand it, it moves your credibility way up the scale, right? People will start to trust you and go, you really do know what you're talking about, and you can actually get in the weeds and help if you need to. And you should be willing to do that, and you should do that sometimes, but you shouldn't be doing it all the time. And I think those are the biggest indicators for me of who a leader is.
Right.
Right.
So I think you've touched on it a little bit already, but definitely want to dive in more into the Glint standard of what an industry leader is. I know we hold different standards maybe than some other agencies, but when we're talking about what is the Glint standard of an industry leader, is it a type of level, a position that they must achieve to be at, right? Is it so many years in the field? Is it, what exactly would you say is the defining moment where they're like, okay, from Glint's side of things, this is definitely an industry leader?
I think it's what we just talked about, honestly. Share, mentor, foresight, adaptable, can project. Okay. If you have those qualities, then you're good. It's not about, can you do this? Can you speak on this? You have to be able to speak to people as a leader as well. Doesn't mean you got to be able to get in front of 200 people and speak well. Doesn't mean you have to be able to do it really well one-on-one. But you have to have a way of good communication. Even if you're pushing that through someone else, that's a need. You have to have that. So if you touch on those core principles, that will get you down the right path. That will hit all the marks for us, for sure. Right. It's not about doing stuff. Stuff is stuff. You just do it. Right.
So for us, if I'm hearing correctly, it doesn't sound like we would consider a Glint standard industry leader to be somebody that's just really good at one platform. They have to be able to adapt and oversee and...
Well, they could be, but you're doing it within that platform. That still works.
Okay.
You take those standards and apply it to one platform, you apply it to 10 platforms, you tie it to an industry, right, that you're going after. I'm really good at medical, right? An industry you work in, I'm really good at advertising. However you want to do that, apply those principles and you're going to be fine. So I think the standards that we put in place here, the standards we put on everything, and the standards of our partnerships we want to bring into play, all of that still aligns. Okay. For me it does, for sure. I mean, what do you think a good leader is? What do you think the defining marks are for you?
Yeah, I think for me, I think it goes back to a little bit of what you said, right? That foresight. Being able to be so integrated into things, whether that is multiple platforms or one platform or even just a way of thinking, right? We've touched on integrated marketing. So somebody that's really in tune with that could be an industry leader at a Glint standard where they have that foresight of seeing all the other stuff around it. I think a lot of people get lost in their own platform or their own thing, and that's all they really see, right? And so being able to adapt very quickly, I think from a leader standpoint, not just an expert, but a leader standpoint, it's being able to also communicate that back to other people of how are you supposed to move and change.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. And adapting doesn't mean you're always right, but you have to make a decision. Right or wrong, you do it and you stand behind it, you move forward until you find out it's wrong, and then you adapt and you change and you pivot. Leaders don't have all the answers. That's why they have teams and people helping.
Right.
That's kind of how that works. So
So let me ask you this: somebody that is just starting out in the marketing career, because that just happens to be our field,
Right.
but somebody that's in that pathway, whether that be branding, marketing, advertising, what's a good way to help them start establishing, if they want to be an industry leader, what's a next step that they can take?
First, why? Why do you want to be an industry leader? Some people don't. Some people don't need to be, right? It depends what you want out of your career. So everybody is not going down the same path, right? And what do you want to get out of it? Those are the first questions, right? Once you know that, you can help define, okay, these are things that can probably help you. If you just want more knowledge and you're starting out and you're trying to understand, get a mentor, right? It's the easiest way to start moving forward. It's when you don't have a lot of experience and you want to jump in, I want to help here because I want to learn. I want to go here, learn, and learn. Well, a company's paying you to do a job. They don't want to pay you to keep learning all these little things and figuring this out, because we know there's so much behind it. You've got to get this nailed first and then move through, and that's a whole different thing. It's about a career path and creating your journey and putting your time in to figure it out, right? But getting some mentors that aren't about the day-to-day thing and getting some insight, not just on your work, but your life in general, right? What do you do after work? I go out and party. Does that make sense? Is that helping you move forward? I need to save more money so I can do this later in my life. Is that important to you? No. Well, why are you doing that then? Or that is important to me. Okay, here's a way to start to achieve that. It's more of a life journey, not necessarily just a within the business type of journey, right? You can define it any way you want to. Put the core principles in place, right? And you'll be ready to roll.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you say it's maybe even a pathway that not everybody wants to achieve. So for me, I became an industry leader very specifically to one platform. It was YouTube. I got really good at YouTube. I was one of the first on the scenes for SEO, for advertising. But what was funny is I didn't realize that I was an industry leader until I had gone to a conference, heard other people speak, and realized that I was much more knowledgeable than a lot of the other people in the room. It came as a shock to me, and it wasn't something that I actually went and strived after. I was able to leverage that, which has allowed me to move in my career the way that I have. I guess for me, I got very specific towards one platform as an industry leader. And now as I've started to grow more as just a leader, and I would say I was more of an expert, but as I've grown into a leader role now, it's less of a focus for me of being a established industry leader within one industry. It's more about looking at that leadership side. So I know you've been in the industry for a
little while,
longer time, and ran our company for 20 years, right? And so what do you feel like when you started to establish yourself, or have you ever reached that pinnacle of like, I'm an industry leader? And if so, when did that happen?
Not really a goal for me.
Okay.
I just do what I need to do type of thing. Some people may define me as an industry leader in some regards. Some probably don't. I don't really care. It helps with the business though. If you can talk intelligently to prospects, clients, younger people, to help from a perspective of helping them move forward, I think that's what starts to define it for you, right? I mean, you said it. You were an industry leader. You didn't know.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's how you become an industry leader, is you do the right things and you become one. If the goal is, I need to do these and check these boxes, and now I'm an industry leader, you're probably not, right? Not in every case, but I think those are different ways of thinking, just the way I think about it, right? It's not a checkbox approach. So I think the platform thing too, so you were an industry leader in this thing. Platforms change, they adapt, they overcome. To continue with that, you have to stay focused on that thing, right? And you can, and people do, and people are successful at it. But true leaders will see and go, okay, it doesn't make sense to keep going down this pathway. Here's why. Competition's too high, right? Can't make enough money to live the lifestyle I want to have for my family, right? Can't do this. It can provide this. Is it worth it? Is it getting me where I want to go? And you answer those, you go, it doesn't, so I'm going to start working this path, but I've got a lot of knowledge here still too, right? And it comes down to that where, I think a really good industry leader is about being really good at a lot of things, but probably being an expert at none, right? One way to maybe think about that, because you can bring people around you and you're talking more on the business side now, to make Glint an industry expert, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's our team that does that. It's not the company or me, right? It's the whole as a group type of thing. And if you shift it and you start to shift down those pathways now, take that out, industry leaders as a business, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Chick-fil-A is one. I would say Starbucks is one. I think Tesla's one. Do they do everything right? No. They've got a very good common experience. They've got a very good consistency to how they do things. And I would say if I want to have a successful franchise in the food industry, Chick-fil-A is someone I'm going to check out because I think they're an industry leader in their market. There are others too.
Yeah.
That maybe do other things a little bit better than them in different areas, right? And maybe Chick-fil-A's thing, it's not the best food in the world. Oh, I think it's pretty good, right? But it's fast.
Right.
And it's very consistent I know what I'm going to get. And if you got that feeling of want, you're going to get that, right?
Well, and when it comes to businesses, I think the astonishing point for most people is when you actually look, like you named Starbucks, Chick-fil-A, right? Like when you actually look at their business and everybody's like, oh, they just showed up overnight. The reality is they had a really good foundation, and they had years where they weren't this huge national brand that you knew.
Right.
They figured it out. They started to have a lot more success. They found a niche that they could start to integrate into and move forward in, and do it better than other people. And they adapted, they overcame, they innovated.
And I think that's the piece that really pushes Tesla into the mark, right? And that's a whole different animal size of business, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the innovations that come from that. And say what you will about the business itself and the approach, but it's about stirring things up and making change. And you've got electric cars now, right? That weren't where they were before, but they are now in a pretty good place. And they're going to continue to adapt. Now, all this really awesome stuff that started, that's going to be old technology. It's not going to work with the crap probably in about 5 or 10 years because everything's going to be so much better. But they're also taking all the innovation and tying it to other things. So it's a good company to watch if you're watching it for that reason, right?
Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. We'd love to hear from you. What do you think is an industry leader? Are there industry leaders that you guys follow, whether that be a company or an individual? We'd love to hear about them as well because we do follow a lot of people. So leave us a comment below. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. We'd love to always have you updated on our newest content. And thank you guys so much.